I'm a fucking prima donna.
Nothing happened. I just couldn't see the waveform because I had the track. So it was a iPhone. Nothing.
It's really what it is. It's so
Hello and welcome to Idiots with Instruments, the show that follows Red Hot Rebellion as we write and record our new album from start to finish while interviewing pro musicians, producers, and songwriters of all genres to gain insight into their own unique creative process. Despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in a cage. I am Jim Tremontana, bassist and lead vocalist of Red Hot Rebellion.
I'm Doug Spencer. I play guitar, and I am the least important vocal.
I am Andris Divine. I play the drums, and I sing occasionally.
You do, and you have the voice of an angel.
You do.
That's what I'm told.
Yep.
I disagree, but I don't know. I've never heard an angel
Never
speak.
heard an angel sing?
Yeah.
Is it
Never-
because you are
I
worship
never
the
heard it.
devil?
No.
You are a devil worshiper. Is that why?
Nope. No, I am. Contrary to popular belief, I am not a Satanist.
Oh, good. Well, okay, great.
Yeah.
And now it's time for awkwardness. No, we're not going to do awkwardness with Andris.
I think we just did that.
Yeah. So we still have the two songs in the works, "Sweaty Betty" and the one we were calling "Holding It Down."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are getting tighter, I would say, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're
Absolutely.
we're close to locking in. I think we have locked the final arrangement. Well, not the final arrangement, but a very workable arrangement.
The for now arrangement.
Yep.
Yeah. So the next stage is I need to write some fucking lyrics and melodies, and Doug has to work on his solos.
Riff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some licks, some more
Some tasty licks.
fills.
That's true.
Yeah.
Guitar fills.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I
which
guess
I've
we'll-
been doing that, kind of.
So, are you like? I know a lot of times you experiment a lot in the studio with your guitar solos. Do you seem to do better when you have it pre-planned? Like, you play the same thing every time, or what? Like,
I don't think there's any. I was thinking about that today.
yeah,
Because I was working on one of these tunes, and I was thinking, I don't know if I've tried to plan,
right.
but it never works out.
Right. So you can only plan so much. Is what
Yeah,
you're saying.
and then
'Cause in
it
the
seems
moment-
like in the moment it just it's all gone. It's it's not. It's different.
right.
yeah.
Which I think maybe for the last couple, whatever the last song we did, or a couple songs we did with Chris, and he put me in front of my amp
Crushing
and
it
had
and
the three singles, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we were recording it live in the studio with my own PA system.
Yeah.
And no headphones because I'm a fucking prima donna.
Yeah.
You're wearing them now, and you
He
look good.
totally
know.
hates it. He has headphones on now.
He's got
and
the
he is
look out
very
of
uncomfortable.
Have
He
you
looks-
ever seen like when somebody puts
like a cat,
like
on,
a
like a hat on a
on a
cat,
cat
or
or
or-
shoes
yeah, like-
on a dog.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
yeah.
It's
That's
exactly what it
yeah.
is. I
Yeah.
was so
Yes.
I threw the
Clothes on an
headphones
animal.
down like 5 minutes ago. I was
Yeah.
He is very pissy today, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm a little tired and I'm a little grumpy.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, what I'm planning to do with this album is to step up my game.
Yeah.
So I was working on some fills today because we were talking about how Andris wrote drums to the guitar licks that I was doing.
Yeah.
Right.
But I hated the guitar licks I was doing. So after he had composed the drum parts, I was like, oh, that's way cooler than what I'm doing. So I need to clean up what I'm doing to be tighter with what he's doing. So I rewrote that shit and then worked on the chorus section and Holding It Down today, and then was able to capture that tonight on our rough
right.
practice whatever thing
Yeah.
we were doing. So
Right. Which we're gonna play for you right now. Man, was that great.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Well, where I was going with all that shit was that I'd kind of like to do that with solos too, to a certain extent. Try to do something like that.
Like map them out.
Yeah, map them out. I've spent a little bit of money. I haven't gotten the shit yet, but I'm gonna try and do some pro shit with mapping stuff out.
Hell yeah.
So
that's great.
You're getting the iRig HD Pro?
I'm getting the HD Pro.
Right.
Okay. And actually, it's these fucking same headphones.
It's so
what
those
do you mean?
come with it?
Oh, well, I'm buying headphones.
Okay.
And
Talk in the mic.
I'm buying.
You got your mouth.
There's a slight difference.
You have to put your mouth in front of
because
the
in my cans right now, it sounds like I'm screaming.
I know.
No matter where my mouth is,
you can
but not
definitely
for
hear
us.
a difference.
Fuck. Not for us.
And
you see how like me and Andris are
beautiful.
kind of like just right in front of the mic the whole time, uncomfortably so.
Yeah.
That's kind of how you have to be.
Yeah, this doesn't feel natural at all.
Maybe tonight's not the night to work on his mic skills because he's in a mood.
Yep.
Well, tell us more about what you're planning there, Dougie. Or is the moment gone?
No, it's fine. I already told you guys to go get fucked earlier. So.
Which is odd for him. He really is not the cranky one.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's you.
Yeah. Usually I'm telling you guys to fuck off. I'm having a good time tonight.
You're like, Jimmy, what's wrong? You're like, I can't deal with this right now. It's fine. Yeah.
Right. So my hopes are that with the HD Thelio, and I bought some nice headphones to try and do some tracking, and I'm going to try and do that all through GarageBand or something simple like that so that I can work on it. And then I'm hoping I can have basically all my pre-production done for like what I did, practice and shit, have it all mapped out, and at least I'll have that as like, okay, this is a template, this is a reference.
Yeah.
And my main goal through all of this is to have shit organized to a certain extent, because right now I have no organization.
All right.
I just have riffs and licks and just tons of shit, and I don't know where anything is. So if you said, oh yeah, do you have some cool shit, I'd be like, sure, but I gotta find it. And
right.
Then I would be really frustrated, and I'd be fucking getting even more pissed.
Aww. Right, because you couldn't. Well, that's
right, because it's all back on me. Because
right. No, I know exactly what you're talking about, because fucking computers again. Like, I have files everywhere. I have no idea where any of them are, even though I name folders and shit. I have files on like thumb drives and in Dropbox and on like 6 different hard drives that are attached to my main computer, then another fucking laptop, then this laptop. So
right, exactly.
I think if you can crack this egg,
I think you just have to keep all your files in the same place.
I have so many
music
fucking files though.
But
like get a huge.
I've got all my shit in the same place too.
Right.
But when I look at it, it's
right.
It's all bullshit.
It's very overwhelming, because I'm like, okay, well, which is what? And even if I have like a pile of, I went as far to put.
We need a system.
I need to figure out a fucking system. But what I did was I went as far to like I went through a bunch of shit and put the good ones that I liked in one folder, and was like, okay, so at least they're there.
Yeah.
Right.
But then I still have to go through all that fucking shit.
Right.
To try to find the cream of the crop.
Right. So with the iRig or whatever, is that what it is, right?
The iRig is just an interface.
Right. But are you able to record clips through that and then name them?
Yes.
Because that was one of your big issues with the previous
in the iRig, primarily the cool thing about that, and what I'm hoping is when I was watching some YouTube vids on fuckers using it, was it comes with all the amplitude software like what Jimmy has on his thing, which is decent sounding shit. So I don't need to be mic'd up. I don't need to be fucking loud. I can do that shit anytime. So if I'm like, okay,
DI or whatever,
if I want to work on this song, I can do that, and then I can use, the GarageBand, import it to that to put, the clicks or something with it. So I could actually probably even sketch out shit to see if it's going to be what I want it to be.
Yeah.
Or something. So
this is a huge step, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I mean, like after the last couple weeks of talking about stuff and talking to other people, that was like one of the
epiphanies.
reoccurring themes was like, be fucking prepared, which we've always known that.
Right.
But what can I do in
To
my
actually get
world
there.
to actually be prepared.
Right.
Because what I'm doing just really frustrates me.
Okay. You
And
got to
I'm
make
ti-
it easy for
I
yourself.
want to be, I want it to be easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also, I'm willing to explore,
Right.
right? New
Yeah.
stuff.
yeah.
I mean, the way I know exactly where you're coming from, and in my mind, in my own inner monologue, I always talk about to my own self, you're helping future Jimmy by doing this now.
Right. Yeah.
Because that guy you don't want pissed off. I don't want to piss him off.
yeah.
So me like trying to cobble things together and set things up, I may not touch it for 2 weeks, but that guy is really going to appreciate it when he can just sit down and get the fucking work. You know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So now Doug is helping future Doug, which is helping future Jimmy.
yeah. That's
Right.
good.
Joining us today is a man who is synonymous with the rock, ska, and punk scene in Central Florida during the 90s and 2000s and beyond, who first made his mark on the alternative rock scene by working with legendary artists like Smashing Pumpkins, and a man who has had the great pleasure of recording 4 of my former bands. He is also one hell of a keyboard player and a nice fella. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Mark Ignofo. Mark, how you doing?
Well, hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Great.
Yeah, great. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us today on Idiots with Instruments, Mark.
Absolutely.
We have a series of questions for you about your life and times in the trenches as a recording engineer and producer and as a man of music and mystery. So I guess could you tell us a little bit about how you got started in the recording arts? Let's start there. How did you get started?
Well, sure. I went back. We're going to go into Chicago, of course, where I'm from.
Yeah.
And in 1982, graduated from Columbia, where they had a sound engineering program back there. And it was basically just a one-year course back then. There weren't too many places to go. I think there was one in Chillicothe, Ohio, and something else out in L.A., and that was the only option. So they had this program there. And I was lucky to learn electronics and things like that from the professor there, who is
Malcolm
Chisholm, who was a great engineer at Chess Studios, which is a legendary
Oh yeah.
recording studio. Yeah, and he was my instructor, so it was really cool. He was a bit eccentric, but extremely knowledgeable.
Yeah, tell us a little about his eccentricities, if you don't mind.
Just the way he taught class. I mean, he just was a no BS guy. You know, he would just one of my favorite quotes is when he would get, let's say, slightly perturbed, not at a student, but over, when he was describing stories.
Right.
He would just kind of lean back in his chair and go, "Oh, my heart bleeds lukewarm piss and lager beer for you."
My kind of fellow.
I've never heard that one before.
Sounds like a great instructor.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, he was. He was phenomenal. So, let's see. Going from there after graduating, it's kind of like it is today, where you graduate and, of course, there's nowhere to intern.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
even back then, in the early to mid '80s. So I started buying equipment, and at that point, just have friends' bands come over, and just to kind of get some experience and practice with them, and kind of just kept buying some more stuff and working, 2 jobs, and then buying more stuff.
And was
Started
that
out with the
a studio
Go
in
ahead.
your home? Is that what it was? You were at a home, or did you have like a space that
Nope.
you were building?
No, couldn't afford a space back then. It was just actually in the basement of the house I grew up in,
Wow.
and set it up in there and just built a separate partition wall for the control room, which was a bit cramped. I think you get maybe 4 people in there. But like I said, it was in a basement.
And
then,
so you got the 4-track there, and you were tracking bands, and okay. Yes.
Yeah, I started with a 4-track, and it lasted about 3 months. I said, I can't deal with this, and I got an 8-track.
Oh, nice.
And that lasted for a while, and then finally in '86 is when I made my first major investment and picked up the 1-inch tape machine and a nice AMEC console, and said, okay, I got to make some money now because I spent a bunch.
Right.
Yeah.
Did did you
And,
save up for that, or was that like, did you take out loans for that, or sell a kidney?
A combination, yeah. I mean, I had some to put down, and the rest is like, hey, time to get a loan,
Right.
which had to be collateralized and everything, of course, because as a new startup, it was like, we're not going to lend you money. What do you have that we can take from you? If you don't pay us?
Right.
So, but so that was the big start there, and that was in '86, and I was already getting a lot of word of mouth referrals at that point, so it was kind of cool. And like I said, I was working, so I had was making enough money to make payments no matter what. I had a full time and a part time job, other fun stuff. I did real cool things like dyeing shoes for weddings. Doesn't that sound fascinating?
Whoa.
That
Wow.
actually does sound kind of fascinating. Like what?
Can you tell us more about that, Mark?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. I'm sure you're really interested in that. But anyway,
No, we are. This is
totally
a,
are.
this is
Actually
a recurring theme. Andris, our drummer, is very interested in what people do for work outside of music.
Yeah.
Because most of our listeners are like part-time musicians, or
Right,
aspiring, or
so-
semi-pro.
What the hell do you do
Sure.
for money? Like other than music until music can hopefully take over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean that's really what I did. I dyed shoes for weddings. Women would bring in little swatches, little samples of their dress, and I sat there with the dyes and mixed the colors. And
Nice.
fascinating work. But hey, it was actually pretty easy. So that was kind of fun. And then I also worked at another store in a kiosk in the mall, just selling stuff. And I knew the girl that worked there, and she said, "Well, we could use some extra help." I said, "Okay," and eventually became the manager of that store
Nice.
for the last year it was there.
Right.
And
Were you selling fidget spinners?
no, they didn't have them back then.
I know.
We were selling leather belts. We'd custom make leather belts on the scene. People they'd pick out a pattern of a belt, and we'd cut them to size, and that was one of the things we did. And we sold concert shirts and sunglasses, whatever was popular at the time.
Cool.
Oh.
Nice.
So like bootleg concert shirts, not like the stuff you get outside, not inside.
Yeah, the ones that you can probably wash twice, and
Yeah.
That's
the real fine quality from whatever country that you can't pronounce wherever they were made.
Yeah. That's cool.
So wow, so you're working two jobs and you're doing your studio on the side, building up word of mouth, and then so take us from there on.
Okay,
So after a couple of years doing that, and I was doing more studio, less work at the other place. The job I was managing, they actually ended up. I still speak with the guy who owned the company. It's really funny. We just connected on Facebook like a couple of years ago. Real nice guy.
Cool.
But what I did was, at that point, that job kind of went away just because he couldn't release the space in there for a certain amount of time. They had limitations with the center kiosks. They weren't permanent.
Mm-hmm.
So it just allowed me more time to do recording, and I could always work my schedule at the shoe stores to where I could go in whenever I wanted to, which was nice. My work was always done. I could go in there and knock them out and do it. And it was actually 3 different stores for the same company, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So it was just like I'd bounce around and do that thing. So I could work my own schedule, which made it really, really convenient.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years went by, and I know you want to get to the Smashing Pumpkins, even though I said I don't want to talk about them.
Yeah, we would probably press you. So
No. So it was it was around the end of '88 or beginning of '89 when I had met Billy, and it was just a casual thing. A friend told me about him. Went into the store he was working at over at the Record Hunt, and just got to meet him. And like I said, it wasn't too long after that we actually started recording.
that's cool.
Yeah.
So that was but they were just another band trying to get signed like anyone else.
Right.
It wasn't like they had a deal going. In fact, they had a guy come in to produce a couple songs with them. He worked with EMI Records and cut a couple songs, and he passed on them, which I think he's probably real happy about now.
Good move, dude.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, well, but you never know. The Beatles were passed on initially. They were
Right.
told they had no talent,
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Right.
Everyone passes on Red Hot Rebellion.
Right. But
Well, but
we're
see, they're
getting
making a
there.
mistake.
Yeah,
when,
they're totally
when you guys
making a
get
mistake.
huge,
That's
I'm going to
right.
say, hey, I recorded them in the 4 bands prior to that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, that was
Yeah.
that was actually one of my questions I wanted to get to was about working with external producers, because I know like when you're kind of a a one-man show in your own small studio, you're usually like the engineer, the producer, the mix engineer, all that rolled into one. So was that with that guy from EMI? Was he like the first like actual external record producer that you worked with, and what was that experience like?
Yeah, well, I didn't really. I mean, he just came in to kind of be there for the 2 songs. He kind of made the calls of what he wanted. He said, "Hey, let's bring the vocals down a little bit, or this or that, whatever it happened to be." But that's the first time it was an actual real producer that I actually worked with. And I mean, it was pretty low key, really. He was a pretty laid back guy. But otherwise, it was just bands coming in, and I would just work with them and try to get the sounds that they were looking for. And like I said, in the very beginning, in the early '80s, I was still kind of like just figuring it out, and it wasn't even a guaranteed career path until I made the big jump in '86.
Right, and is that when you went to Florida, Ormond Beach, or?
Well, I moved there, and that was in 1990. I moved to Florida.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a couple of years in between, and started the place I had where you recorded at over on Carswell, and that was in Holly Hill. Beautiful scenic Holly Hill.
That's right, Holly Hill. For some reason I thought it was Ormond Beach. I have a terrible memory. That's where you're at now. That's right. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, so Holly Hill.
So, yep. So we had the place there, and I don't know when I met you exactly, but when I came in town, I decided, well, people got to know I'm here. And we had the wonderful Jam magazine, of course, that Daryl and Sue Massaroni had going. And it was just a huge, huge thing for the local music scene, concentrating only on local artists, which was great. And I got to meet, this guy named Andy Wigner, who was a sales guy for them. And he came over and talked with me. And I'm like, well, this seems like it's pretty good. Now, how do I make some noise? And when everybody was running business card ads, I decided, well, let's see what half-page ads will do. And kind of all of a sudden, you can tell when a client is calling you and when your competition is scouting you to see what you have. Because you can, by the questions they ask, most of the bands I recorded say, so what kind of console do you have? What kind of microphone? What kind of this? Right. And so you could always tell when it was your competition. And I gladly gave them all the information I had. But Jam was great for building up my business, and we pulled a lot of Orlando bands into the Daytona area.
I actually was curious what happened in those 4 years from 86 to 90 that made you want to move specifically to Florida.
Yeah.
Well, I can answer that very simple. It is very cold in Chicago in the winter.
I'm actually from
like
Milwaukee.
Cold weather.
Right. That's fair.
Yeah, Andris, you're from Milwaukee, right?
Yeah.
It was you get those cold winds coming through, and that was the worst part. Being cold is one thing.
Oh, yeah.
But when you get 25, 30 mile an hour winds, it just rips right through you. And I just could not wait to get out of that. And I'd vacationed to this area near Daytona since I was 5 years old. So my wife and I liked the area and decided, let's go ahead and do this. We're young enough to where if it doesn't work, then we can always do something else. I wasn't going back to Chicago. But luckily, it all worked out. And so I was quite busy for many, many, many years, and got to the point where it was too busy for many, many, many years. And it's like, well, I got to go home once in a while. I can't keep living here. They were long weeks, 60, 70-hour weeks, and it was fun. But after a while, it was like, okay, I got to slow down here.
Yeah.
Was that...
Now, between 86 and 90, as you were saying, it was just recording up there, but I could only go so far with it working in a house. In the city of Chicago, you have brick bungalows, which you have little gangways, little walkways in between the houses. And at the closest point, you can pretty much touch both houses. So couldn't work real late at night and, respect to the neighbors and everything. So it just became really limiting, and that was another part of the decision to make the move to get into a commercial location, because it was just way too expensive up there, real estate, to find anything.
Yeah, okay. Wow, that's fair.
So then you started real-time studio in Holly Hill, not Ormond Beach.
Beautiful, scenic Holly Hill. You must say it that way.
Beautiful.
The people.
And like
people get upset.
It was like I remember there was a commercial district, and there were it looked like airplane silos and stuff. There were like machine shops and stuff. You were definitely in an industrial area.
Exactly. They were Quonset huts, actually. They're like military-style huts.
Yeah.
And there was an auto repair place over there and a couple other, little shops. But, so that was the place I found, and the building I had found there was like Fort Knox, because it was just a big concrete block building with 2 steel doors, and it was perfect. It formerly was a costume jewelry warehouse, so it was very secure.
Nice.
Which was really important because you really don't want a bunch of windows when it comes to the studio type thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
For both sound and security, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah,
and then,
so that's where I ended up for quite some time.
And you were like the go-to guy for many years, for especially Orlando bands and most of Central Florida. Like everyone was like, you got to go to Real Time, and that's where I went many times, including with the illustrious band Alias Clark, featuring Adam the Woo, the YouTube hero, on bass guitar.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So, and those were good times.
They were good times. Yes, absolutely. Yes, I still have. I think I still have one of those CD covers for the couple that did that recording, the Good Times. But
nice. Yeah.
I will have to find it, and if I can, I will post it on Facebook for you.
Oh, that would be great.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not sure even I have one of those things laying around, but
yeah, I don't. Cleaning house between all the moves and going to different places and scaling down. So I'm not sure I have one either. But if I do, you will be the proud recipient of being able to view it. How is that?
That sounds wonderful. So, and then you had a couple different studios working out of there as well, right? So you had like a Studio A and like a Studio B, and you started using external engineers as well. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I had Tom that worked with me for a long time,
Right.
and he worked up in the front. And he did the mastering, and he did a lot of stuff like transfers. People would, have a home recording cassette of interview with a family member, and he would take that and put it on CD, that type of stuff. So he ran that room, and I had another guy, Chris, who ran more of a MIDI production room, and he ended up taking over a lot of the rap and the hip hop clients, and so he would work in that room separate. So yeah, we had really 3 rooms, but only one big tracking studio, and it wasn't all that big, but
right. And
So you were basically a one-stop shop.
right. Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah. You go in there, you record. Mark, for us, he would mix, and then kick it to Tom for mastering, and then it would be, whether you want analog or digital. I think was it all digital though? Was he doing digital mastering or both? You could do.
Yep. Yeah, he had one of the first workstations.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what type of computer it was, what the system he had, but it was quite expensive.
Yeah, it looked very complicated.
It was.
Like
That was.
Yeah, I remember one session. I forget what band. It was something that you engineered, and then you're like, "All right, we're done. You here, take over and mix." And I'm like, "I don't know how to run this goddamn board." And you're like, "Oh shit!" All right, and then you're like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna start mixing this thing." And it came out great, but I'm sure I don't remember. So let me ask you this: like, so it's used with the tape. Did you ever go full digital, or was it always on tape when you were still recording bands? Like, what changes did you see over the years, like moving from era to era? Because now everyone records in Logic and Pro Tools, and sometimes quarter-inch tape, but it's getting rare these days.
It is. I do actually do a lot of transfers from old reel-to-reels. People bring them in. They want to have them put into either onto the computer format or to a CD, depending on what they're looking to do. But, yeah, for a long time, I kind of resisted it at first, although I did have ADAT machines for a while, which actually I still have some of those. And I've done a few transfers for people, just dumping tracks over. But so it was mostly analog. But, tape was expensive, so a lot of the bands, they liked going to ADAT because you could get 24 tracks, and it was pretty inexpensive tape-wise. So I did that for a while as well. And now, of course, I'm on Pro Tools. Been using that for a while.
Right. And
I have a studio at my house.
Okay.
That's where I record with my son. And then I have the studio, and I have, run Pro Tools up there as well.
Yeah, that was I'm glad you mentioned your son, because he's a musician, and I wanted to ask if you were the one who recorded him, and what's that like working with a family member, and like how much, like, are you? Is there
how much do I get paid?
Yeah,
I get paid nothing.
Bummer.
Terrible gig.
Yeah,
No,
so there's no ROI
awesome.
there.
Is it? Yeah. So do you guys write together? Are you writing songs together, or is you just kind of engineering what he's coming up with? And
everything up to this point is stuff that he has written that we have worked together. I'll throw in production ideas and different things like that. He lets me do pretty much all the mixing. We'll sit together, but he kind of lets me take the reins there when it comes to putting stuff together, and I'll throw ideas at him. And sometimes, some certain things he's like, nah, I don't know about that. And other times he's like, oh, that's brilliant. And I was like, yeah, I know. But
yeah, this is pro shit, son.
Yeah.
No, so he's done all that, although we're going to start working on some stuff, some progressive rock songs, kind of take you back a little more to the little more intricate stuff with time changes, and I get to have some fun. And I did get to play on his a couple little things on his last EP he just put out. So, his full length.
You were playing keys or
yes.
Yep. Keys? Yeah.
Yep.
So you going? So you mentioned progressive rock. I know you're a big fan of Yes. Are you steering him in that direction? Like,
no, I let him do his own thing. He's actually loved that style of music because he was forced to listen to it growing up, of course, in my house.
He was probably conceived to a Rick Wakeman solo album.
It's he's got a variety of likes and stuff like that, which is great. His favorite band and his first concert that we went to together was Dream Theater.
Nice.
So he loves that.
Wow.
He loves the heavier edge stuff, and his first EP was more like that. It was some songs that he wrote. He was probably about 17 when he wrote those.
Nice.
So he just wanted to kind of put those out and get them done, and just say, okay, this is something I wrote. It's complete. Now I want to move on. So the new recording is a lot more diverse. Some different styles on there. It's not a progressive rock thing by any means.
Right.
We have one instrumental track on there that kind of delves into it a little bit. He decided to make an instrumental. He's like, okay, I want you to play keys. I said, okay, we can do that. So it's just fun, recording with him it's a blast. And, I get back there and I'll just start nitpicking little things in the mix and getting sounds and I don't know if he has the patience for that. He just kind of lets me do my thing.
Right, yeah. And I think we failed to mention your son's name if anyone wants to find his music online.
Well, that would be Nick Ignofo.
Nice.
And you can find him. He's all over. He's on Bandcamp. His stuff's on iTunes. It'd be great if you guys could check him out. I think you'll really enjoy it. Spotify. I mean, he's everywhere. He's dominating the world at this point.
Oh, perfect.
Awesome.
So this is kind of an open-ended weird question, but what makes a great rock song? We're obviously a rock band. We have no idea what the fuck we're doing, so teach us.
Oh, boy. Well, there's a lot of ways to look at it. Are you looking for huge commercial success? You want to be the next Nickelback? Is that what you're going for?
No.
I mean,
see, that's a level of success.
I am.
Yeah. Right. Maybe if Nickelback sounded like someone else.
Yeah.
Like
there you go.
And less
Motorhead?
Canadian. Yeah. Yeah, so our deal is we call ourselves the soundtrack to a bar fight. We kind of go for like a Motorhead meets Ramones kind of style.
Has Jimmy made you listen to us?
I'm sure I've thrown him links at some point, but
Okay.
I've definitely heard some things. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
So tell us what we could be doing better.
Yeah. Tell us what's wrong.
It's not even that's a matter of what's wrong or what's right. I mean, it just depends on what your goal is. The stuff that my son writes, he's not trying to make it to be this huge commercial success. If it was, phenomenal. It's great. But I've always approached music from, I'm going to write stuff I like to write, stuff I like to play. If people like it, fine. I had no dreams of being a major rock star or anything like that. So for me, it was just the pleasure of creating something that I enjoyed. And hey, if people liked it, that was cool.
Right. But you played keys on a Smashing Pumpkin song or two, right?
Yeah. Just it was some weird stuff, though. It wasn't really not my forte. That he just wanted this really bizarre organ solo, which was not. He didn't want it to be because, in fact, his exact words were, "Don't play any of that Wakeman stuff." I'm like, okay.
Don't play anything musical.
I had no time to plan because he just kind of, said, "I want you to do an organ solo on this." I'm like, okay, and he says, I didn't want you to think it out. I just want you to throw something. He says, make it really weird, make it really odd. I'm like, okay. So that's kind of how that weird solo in Rhinoceros came about. It was not something I would normally play, but we just kind of ran through a couple things, and I tried to make it odd, throwing some weird, weird notes and stuff against what he was playing. It was, it was in key, but it was not what your typical solo would sound like.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, I'd like that. I was like, okay, all right, cool.
You're the boss.
Nice.
That's cool.
And there's actually, you can't, I don't even think you can hear it in the final mix, but in the song I Am One, which is one of the first big ones I recorded with them.
Right.
I'm actually following his guitar with a kind of a grungy Hammond organ sound, but it's so far mixed in, it actually sounds like the guitar as well. Just kind of all together in there.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, that was like one of my. That's the song that got me into Smashing Pumpkins. I Am the One. Yeah,
That's legit.
badass.
Yeah, it was some cool stuff. I mean, it was definitely a really unique, interesting experience. I still say to this day, I've said this in other interviews I've done about them, that it's got to be the loudest amp I have ever recorded in my life.
Have you met Doug Spencer? Yeah, Doug likes to record loud.
It was just crazy loud.
Who was the biggest pain in the ass to record?
Ooh.
Was it me? Is that why you don't want to answer?
No, we didn't rehearse this. I was supposed to say you, wasn't I?
Yeah, we can fix it in post.
Yeah. It's Pro Tools.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a few guys that, had a little bit of an ego, I guess you would say. And the nice thing about working for myself is I didn't have to put up with it if I didn't want to.
Right.
So there was and I'm not going to call them out, but there was a band or two that I literally had their deposit money sitting when they showed up for their session, because if it was going to start out with an attitude, I was going to just hand them their money back and say, you guys need to go somewhere else. But I can only think of one or two occasions. And it's funny, we talk about the bands I've recorded. I actually went through all these DAT tapes because I have them all. I don't get rid of any of that stuff unless the band took them. I've recorded over 1,000 different bands over all the years.
Damn.
And,
wow.
It's crazy. And it's not necessarily just a band, but it could be a solo person coming in with acoustic guitar or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was going through them and counting them up. I mean, I have a stack of boxes that are probably, almost 5 feet tall, and each one has, got 100 DAT tapes in it. So there's a lot of stuff in there.
Wow. That's crazy. So, all right, forgive my ignorance because I don't really know, but when something's on DAT, the ADAT, it can no longer be mixed, right? That's a final mix that would then go to the master.
Yeah, well, the ADAT is a multi-track format. Those can be mixed, but a DAT tape is those little, they look like a mini DV tape. And those, that's a final mix. It's just like putting it on a CD or cassette, whatever.
Gotcha.
It's mixed, and that's what it is.
Gotcha. That's what I thought, but I wanted to double check.
Yeah.
And let me ask you a songwriting question. What's some common mistakes you see songwriters make? Either in your experience back in the day or currently?
I think a lot of times guys will fall into, they have their little comfort zone, and they get afraid to stray away from that. And then everything starts to sound the same. It's too similar. So there's just not enough variance. It's like, this song kind of sounds like that one, and then it sounds like these other four you already did.
Right.
Don't be afraid to kind of, to spread out and I'm not saying do a punk song and then try and do an opera song next to it, although that would be interesting.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
But, how important do you find pre-production is to recording a band?
I really like that part of it because you got to get a feel for what someone is trying to achieve, and I think it's important. They might even say, well, this is the kind of style we're going for. This is the kind of sound we're going for.
Right.
We like the drums from this band. We like the guitar tones from this, and it gives you a good direction. Gives you a good starting point. So then at least I know, okay, this is the kind of thing that they're going for. So then I know how to approach the project, just so I can get the product that they're looking for. Of course, now I'm fortunate. I don't do bands anymore because I don't have a setup to do that. I just do smaller projects.
Right.
So I don't do live drums or anything anymore. I don't have the space for it. I don't have the patience for it, I'll be honest, after doing it for 36 years.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like I said, it was fun for a long time. And it got to the point where it was just getting to be too much. And so now I'm at a good point because I can pick and choose the things I want to work on, and I'll work with a certain singer that, I like this guy. Hey, he's got a good voice. Let's work on a project together, that type of stuff. So able to pick and choose puts me in a really good spot now.
You're not just taking any schmuck off the street to keep the lights on. You're doing it's
right,
all passion products. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Well, thanks a ton, Mark, for taking the time to speak to us and classing up the joint.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was good to talk with you guys.
And ride down memory lane. One of these days, I'm going to get one of those old bands back together and call you out of retirement to record us for old time's sake. We'll fly you somewhere fancy like
Ohio?
Dayton, Ohio.
I think I'm busy that week, but I'll get back to you.
Are you sure? You could come in the winter. It would be very reminiscent of Chicago. Relive your old glory days?
Yeah.
All right.
Glory days. Yeah. Well, thanks a ton. We'll definitely keep in touch and really appreciate talking to you. It's been fun, and I love you. So we'll talk to you later.
Yeah. I love all you guys, even if I haven't met you. I love you guys too.
Hey, love you too, Mark.
Maybe
Thanks,
we can meet
man.
sometime. That'll be fun.
Have a nice evening. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, man.
Sounds great.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
That'll do it for this episode of Idiots with Instruments. I am Jim Tremontina, and I'm reminding you to keep it simple.
Doug Spencer. Stay hydrated.
Andris Divine, don't do stuff that we don't want you to do.
Like what?
Play acoustic.
Yeah.
But
for one.
I mean, if unless it's something you really need to do, like Ryan.
Right.
Moat.
Yeah. Who's a very nice man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right.
If you can at all avoid it.
And a snack.
How's that?
Yeah.
Don't do things that we don't
Ryan
want you to
Malott
do.
is a snack.
A snack. Yeah.
That'll be a song on the album.
Ryan Malott is a snack.
Ryan Malott is a snack. Write it down.
Oddly specific.
Yeah.
It's going on the whiteboard.
It's going on
Ryan.
the whiteboard. All right.
All right.
All right, everyone. Have a good time. Bye-bye.
Idiots with Instruments is a Solid Arts and Science production. All rights reserved throughout the multiverse. Please subscribe and review the show on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. Visit idiotswithinstruments.com for exclusive bonus material and to support or sponsor this show.